dear friend Lisa Musich of Compass Real Estate, Northern California, specifically the glorious Bay Area. How are you doing this morning, Lisa?
Doing well. Doing well. 3 days of rain. The sun's back out again here in Palo Alto, so no complaints.
Palo Alto, that's right.
Yeah.
And such one of the most dynamic, obviously strongest, incredible luxury real estate markets in general, but luxury real estate markets in California and further in the world. And you're there at a very dynamic, interesting period in time, so to speak, for a number of different reasons. What has 2026 been like thus far for you in the Bay Area?
It's interesting. Sellers, and I'm trying to figure this out. There is a lineup of buyers. Um, Sellers aren't selling. There is the market is so restrictive right now. If you get one house that's truly move-in ready at any price point, it is multiple offer going up. Example, Palo Alto, lovely four-bedroom home, nothing crazy. I'm going to say this price, which makes no sense to anybody else, probably in the country, because it's specific really to this part of the Bay Area, but listed at like 6.8 million. Nice neighborhood, we're not talking elite, and sold for 8.6.
Well,
You can't, all that is buyers frustrated. They want to be somewhere. And, when the property comes up that they can move right into and don't have to do the kitchen or the bathroom, they fly.
wow. I haven't heard
But
about a market situation like that since some of the ski towns during COVID.
yeah, no, it is not. I mean, California doesn't build. It's hard to build here. So it keeps prices, and you've got the demand. There's the Silicon. It's interesting. There's the Silicon Valley money, which, startup and tech and all of that. There's a new wave of that coming in with AI.
Right.
And I think that there is, thinking about market, that engineer that started at a Google or a Meta a decade ago that is salaried, but it's the employee stock options that make this real estate market move. That in a decade of employee stock options, you can turn around and buy a home all cash for $4 million.
Right.
That those jobs are, I mean, the Meta, Googles of the world, they're all leaking jobs. The layoffs are coming. I'm waiting to see what the homeowners do who do lose their jobs or get laid off. Do they stay? Do they leave? Are they going to find, I mean, just in I mean, AI does things more efficiently, so you just don't need, the companies don't need to be as big
Yeah,
as a Meta and a Google. So where does that absorption go? I'm kind of
that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
I was reading the other day, someone said that they were a technology optimist, and I thought that was an interesting phrase, because my belief is, and I actually went to hear a futurist speak, and he's also optimistic, but AI is like, we're preschool. I don't even know if we're in preschool yet with AI. And I think that while there is going to be this readjustment and disruption of some losing jobs because of it, what AI does is it allows those with an entrepreneurial spirit and a business spirit, and it doesn't have to be tech. It allows you to launch businesses so much easier. You've got that resource that can run the three financial models for you and help you figure out what's the best way to open up your curated clothing store, whatever you want it to be. So
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
I think it's going to be a really powerful tool that in the end is going to be creating more jobs and more opportunity as more companies are allowed to come online. But in order to get to that point, there's disruption.
Absolutely. And
And
that was so very well said. Thank you. And you're very well spoken, by the way. I've told you before, but what you said is so absolutely spot on. And it's really just it's embracing it and looking at it. It's just, it's how you look at something. You can look at any situation as such as your current real estate, the dynamics of your
Mhm.
market. You can look at it in one way, or you can just slightly shift. And I absolutely love AI. And to your point, if people look at it from that vantage point, especially if you choose the one that works best for you, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, or I mean, it's true.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
tried them all, and I love Claude. Claude is amazing. And within 1 week, it has absolutely transformed the current status of my life and how I operate as a serial entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and further what's coming in an accelerated pace in the future. It's absolutely mind blowing. Things that I've thought of for years I couldn't do. And then also thinking about my clients, such as you, the magazines, and how I can benefit all of that in greater ways. And it'll be exciting to watch how proactive clients such as yourself, especially in a very dynamic, powerful luxury real estate market such as the Bay Area, also utilize AI, and especially you as an entrepreneur as well. Because
Yeah.
case in point, luxury realtors are some of the greatest entrepreneurs on the planet, in my opinion.
Well, and I'll humbly agree with that. I think you have to be because you're starting your own business. It is a business, and I got into it with coming from a background of marketing and marketing consultancies and advertising, and wanted to have my own business, and was always interested in art and architecture and design, and was a chief of staff and finding office space in New York City and space utilization, and I fell in love with all of that. Like, what makes you can walk into a house and it just doesn't feel, it can just feel not like a home. You can walk into another one and there's a vibe there, even if it's a brand new build. So what did that builder do? What materials did they use? Did the banister being real wood and not metal or a mix give a warmth to the house that it otherwise wouldn't have? So I kind of geek out on getting to see some of these older estates in Atherton,
Oh,
that were built in the
absolutely.
1920s. They're just stunning, and you just walk out going, God, I hope whoever gets this doesn't knock it down or doesn't take
Well, that's
builds on the character of it, versus trying to make their mark on it, I
And
guess is,
also, to your point, just builds on the character of it by simply being the right people to live in it, right?
yeah.
And that's what also, it's part of, obviously, with, as you just explained it to a certain extent, is being an exceptional luxury realtor is you're not selling real estate, you're selling a lifestyle, and you're
Mhm.
selling the right lifestyle to the right people. And that goes for the market, the home, all the way down the line. And I can only imagine. You said geek out. I love that old school cliche term. But yeah, when you walk into a home and just you can feel it alive almost from those that, whether it is a brand new build and no one's lived in it, or to one that's had many many beautiful generations of lives throughout it. And in the Bay Area, you have so many, similar to a certain extent as you have with Southern California. You have so many within blocks. You have a completely different dynamic of
Mhm.
architecture and real estate and whatnot.
I mean, and I come from the Midwest. I think it's amazing the diverse architectural styles that are
Yeah,
on one street block. There wasn't, while this was all planned to a certain degree, someone got out and put the streets and said, okay, we're going to build a neighborhood there. The houses don't all look the same with a
yeah,
different shade of beige that differentiates
yeah,
unit one from two to three. And then the colors start to repeat, right? We've all seen
yeah.
those big, huge complexes that start to get built along huge swaths of freeways, and it's, very cookie cutter. I'm surprised for some of these areas that the more planned neighborhoods weren't as cookie cutter as they could have been.
To your point, what's interesting is you can, again, whether you're in, especially when you're in really powerful luxury real estate markets, and let's just use for the sake of conversation, say Southern California and the Bay Area, is you can look at them from a certain vantage point at times, and I find it interesting is you can almost analyze like that. I'm taking a guess was built during that decade or that period of time, or you can see a segment where a certain architect won a bid and got that entire section. It's all the same, and then a street over, it's okay. That was built a decade later. That section, right? And
Yeah.
it's and geeking out on it, as you would say. It's
Well, and I mean, this area of Palo Alto where I'm at started in really the 1950s. So a lot, Joseph Eichler, you see pods of Eichlers where clearly he was the developer. Um, Uh, so yeah, you see some of that, but for the most part, I'm always kind of amazed at how the different I go for a if I say run, that's probably ambitious. I go for a jog in the morning, and it's fun to jog, and because all the houses have are unique in their own right. So yeah, it's a fun area to be in.
I can imagine. Absolutely. And with respect to, and also again, as to your point of when I made the comment that luxury dealers are some of the greatest entrepreneurs on the planet, and you agreed, in a market such like that, it's what's also fantastic about it is you will always have, especially in the state of California, you will always have guaranteed business if you're willing to be the most, one of the most committed serial entrepreneurs and go get it. But the business is
Mhm.
always there. It's never going to dry up, especially in markets like Los Angeles or the Bay Area, and it's fantastic. A market such as the one you're in can be interesting with respect to the homes selling at prices that you can't even explain. And how long has it been like that? And how are you personally, excuse me, working through that?
Well, I mean, other than to continue to be astounded by it and kind of say, qualify when I say I'm about to say something that sounds horrendous, like an entry-level home being $2 million, $3 million, that, oh, you're still going to have to move in and do the bathrooms and the kitchen. Like, it's not, those aren't ready to go and those aren't new builds, right? I feel like not having history in California. I moved out here about 6 years ago, and the neighborhood that I live in was built in the 1950s. The neighbors that we have all moved here in the mid to late 90s. And that seems to be when it was before that huge first tech boom.
Mhm.
And from the 90s forward, it's just, and the legacy real estate agents here, they keep expecting it to plateau and it just keeps going up and up. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is the drivers of the sizes of the Google and the Metas of the world and the size they had to become and the international talent that they had to attract. Um, and then the lump on the employee stock options. Like if I had understood employee stock options when I was 20 years old, like I called one of my best friends in New York and I was like, oh, we screwed up. We stayed in New York too long. That wasn't a conversation in New York when it was very much a conversation out here 20, 25 years ago, even before that time out here. But you didn't really realize that until you see it firsthand. So other than the fact that it is hard to build in California if you're going to go, and I'm looking with the client right now that's got they're very specific. We've been working together for 8 months. Um, they're either not we went from trying to find a home to trying to intercept a build at a point in time where they could customize it, but not start from scratch, to now just looking for land. But in doing that, I keep going, are you sure you want to do that? It's 18 months, a year to 18 months for all the permits.
Mhm.
What trees can you take down? What trees can't you take down? What can you build? Getting the plans approved. Then there's a process where neighbors can bring up any issue they like that could come into that. And then you're facing 2 to 3 years of a build. And I say that because if the geopolitical climate right now, first it was tariffs and now we're war. And how does that impact the supply chain? Like you don't know. And what is that cost going to be in 3 years? Because the costs are escalating simply because, again, there's a lot going on geopolitically that impacts the cost, to build a house. That said, the developers, and I was with a developer yesterday, like they're full steam ahead. They're building houses that are $14 million. They're building houses that are $20 million. And those houses don't stay on the market long. They go because there is wealth here. And there's also international wealth here
Yeah.
too. It's not just those that are working, you know, or come from local or United States. You've got, wealth that's coming in from China, and you've got
Yeah.
wealth that's coming in from, interestingly enough, Europeans they're starting, more European buyers are coming in. So it's an international hub. So you
Yeah.
don't if America's in an issue, kind of in the doldrums and money doesn't feel good here, money coming from China could feel really good
Right.
coming in here. I mean, there's a lot of, and there's a lot of just investment for better or worse. They call them ghost houses here where foreign buyers come in and buy and they maintain the property
Yeah.
beautifully. Sometimes they remodel it. They never live in it. Or they live in it for 2 weeks out of the year. They don't, unfortunately, they don't rent it out, which again then constricts buyers not being able to get into an area,
Yeah.
right? Because there's not as many rental properties as there probably could be. So it's a whole confluence of um, issues that impact the shortage of housing at pretty much all price points.
Yeah.
The only market right now that's a little bit in the doldrums is condos, and that's for kind of more specific reasons. California has an SB 326 law about balconies. So if the building isn't approved, then the loan can't go to Fannie and Freddie, which means then you need a higher interest rate loan because it's coming through a private lender. Most people can't afford that if they're, again, it's a lower price point. So you're talking about someone who's coming into the market. There's just some, overall issues around why condos aren't moving right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting.
And I think they're going to start to move because the prices are depressed where investors will come in and start going, I can acquire this unit and rent it out
Mhm.
because the demand, if you can't buy, then I've got another buyer I'm working with, they own, they want to move and they want to sample a neighborhood first. So they're happy to rent something if they can find something before they buy.
Right. Which is
So
very smart. Very smart.
yeah, yeah,
What is your take on? We traded a few emails on this.
yeah.
What is your take on because I working with amazing luxury realtors and brokers and whatnot, such as yourself throughout the States, the Caribbean, et cetera, you get different perspectives on it. And what is your take personally, being in obviously not only the Golden State, but in the Bay Area? What is your take on the quote unquote infamous now California wealth tax for the affluent? Do you see any impact of it, or is it more simply something that's talked about as because often you'll get other markets saying to position their market that it's significantly affecting, obviously it's not because of what you've already explained about the dynamic of the luxury real estate market in your market. It's literally seems like it's a non-issue.
And here's why, all right, personally, okay, there's perception
Yeah.
going on with the wealth tax, what it could mean. Um, I, and this, I'm going to stay away from politics, but I will say this. The wealthiest in this country could give up all of their money without accountability of how that money gets spent. We're seeing fraud headlines, Minneapolis fraud, LA fraud, and the
California. Yeah.
hospice care.
Yeah.
You will blow through that money, and then what? So okay, take all the wealth that the super wealthy have, how long is it going to last when there's not checks and balances on how it's being spent? Is it being spent wisely? And making sure that there isn't waste. So I
Well,
come,
in the state of
I,
California, that's an interesting question.
well, right. I mean, there's a P&L, and I don't know why or how the public sector has gotten away from or not addressing the fact that there's a P&L, and every business owner out there, not tech, because I don't, I know that small business makes this country run. It's the dry cleaner, it's the local restaurants, it's all of that is employment every business goes through an iteration phase. What's working? What's not working? Let's stop doing what's not working. We're putting too much money here. Let's think about it. And we seem in politics these days to go full bore into what we think is going to be good, but we don't stop to ever say, is this actually working? And if it's not working, maybe we should change something. So personally, again, you can tax and tax and tax and tax and tax, but if you're not managing that money well, it's just going to be this horrendous cycle that we've gotten ourselves in where you're just constantly looking for new money. I will say, specific to the wealth tax in California, and I'll consider them. And my background is working in, marketing and advertising. I spent a lot of time working with hip hop artists, and I kind of come back. So I'm going to say the mic drop moment of the, wealth tax at this point is a wealth tax in California is a ballot measure right now. It targets about 200 people. It hasn't qualified for the ballot yet. And wait for it, it's written in a way that actually exempts real estate.
So it literally is a non-issue.
So it's a non-issue right now.
Oh, well, thank
And
you.
I'm going
Wow.
to also say, I'm going to focus on Atherton because I believe it qualifies as the most expensive zip code in the country.
I think it's between that and one of the zip codes in Newport Beach.
Okay. So we'll go with, great, it's at the top. Atherton prices are up 33% year over year.
That
Luxury
is
sales,
absolutely fantastic.
luxury sales are up 27%. There are multiple offers on $20 million homes closing in 8 days. There
I
is a
love it. I think it's fantastic.
gorgeous house. Gorgeous house in Atherton.
Oh yeah, I have friends that grew up there. Yeah, yeah,
$25 million.
yeah.
And I'm going to pay homage to an OG in Atherton real estate, Mary Gullickson, and her son Brent. They represented the house. I think it came on at 25 million, maybe 25.3. It was on the market for 3 days and it sold at 27. That was late last year, but there is, Atherton is a prestige area. It's I've made it area. You're not just buying a home there, you are buying definitely a statement about your success.
It's like buying a yacht for real estate, basically.
Yeah. But and there's the tight area around the Circus Club that are, that's the more prestige Atherton, but like everything, it kind of expands out. But I also want to address the fact that the wealth tax isn't actually a tax. Legally, it's a forced liquidation of unrealized gains. So the ballot measure that everyone's calling the Billionaire Tax Act, that is, okay, qualification for it. Residents with a net worth of over 1 billion. Already touched on the fact there are 200 people in the entire state that qualify for that. The ballot needs 800 and almost 75,000 signatures by June 24th, 2026, just to get on the November ballot. Again, nothing's passed. The 5% that they want to take of unrealized gains, some people argue it's going to be more than 5% if they were to actually write this out, only is against stocks, business stakes, and art, not real estate. Real property is explicitly exempted. Now, we can talk about what rich people do. So, I've lived in a house in Atherton for 20 years. Huge escalation in value. Prop 13 in California Your taxes aren't 2026 taxes. Your tax base is set when you bought that property 20 years
Yeah.
ago. I have wealth. I have wealth advisors. Do I want capital gains on a house in Atherton that's only grown in prestige that I've owned for 20 years? Why wouldn't I borrow against the equity of the house?
Mhm.
Why wouldn't I hold on to it? And, when I pass, they get the step up, my family gets the step up in capital gains, and they can sell it without, the capital gains tax being applied.
Right.
So you get wealth by, a lot of opportunity, a lot of luck, that whole intersection um, of those. But how do you keep it? And if anything, I've got that $25 million estate in Atherton. I've had it for 20 years. If I go to sell it, I've got capital gains tax that, is going against it. And then you layer on what how can I phrase this? They being the wealthy are why would you, I guess, why would you sell it when there's a idea that you're going to be taxed multiple ways against it if you sell it? Why wouldn't you hang on to it and use it as a restructure other businesses funded by the equity in those estates?
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. And keep it as a legacy property for your family.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And when it comes to, I think the other thing is you're seeing on the headlines, I think a little bit of fear mongering is everybody is moving out. Okay, so most recently, Larry Page filed LLCs in Florida.
Yeah.
His house that I'm not so far away from, or one of his properties I'm not so far away from, that property's not up for sale. And there's a difference between establishing legal residency elsewhere. You can do that without having to sell your property.
Yeah, of course there is. I personally do it for these magazines and for myself personally.
And a
Most people,
private
most people
jet
do. Yeah.
can make again, we're talking privilege here. A private jet can make you a resident of anywhere. So great, they have to spend a certain amount of days outside of California
Yeah.
to not have to pay into the tax system in California. That doesn't mean that they have to sell their property.
It's very simple for people to do. For example, in the state of South Dakota, I just learned you can fly in and stay at a hotel, or if you really want to go on the adventurous side, Lisa, you can stay at a campground and simply go and show the receipt that you stayed at the campground, just there for less than 24 hours. You have permanent residency, and you can show that you have that in the state of South Dakota, and then you get all the benefits of their business-wise for their privacy and their taxes are amazing, just like Wyoming and whatnot. So yeah, so you're right. It's headlining, and thus thank you for explaining that so well.